Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be Mayfair Witches.
Spooky, it's October.
It's not. It's June, Ben.
It's always October in my brain. Look, honestly, there's like 4 months in my brain.
Are you a pumpkin spice latte soccer mom?
I'm very close. I don't like lattes, but I'm very close. Like, there are like 4 months in my brain, and they are August, which is Gen Con. That August is Gen Con. So there's Gen Con, Halloween, the holidays.
Okay.
And then
the rest?
The beginning of the year, which is like only important in my brain because my birthday's in that box. Yeah. My birthday is also close enough to the holidays that I don't actually... There's 3 types of the year. There's... I'll go back to the 4. There's spring, Gen Con, Halloween, and the holidays. That's the times of year.
So I think most other people also recognize that there's 4 times a year, but they call them the 4 seasons, and it's spring, summer, fall, and winter.
Well, yeah, you're right. Spring, Gen Con, Halloween, the holidays.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's the correct little...
Anyways, though, so this episode, we're going to be talking about Mayfair Witches, which is a show on AMC.
It's part of the Immortal Universe.
Which, if you don't know the Immortal Universe, it's the Vampire Tales universe and the Mayfair Witches universe, which are the same universe. And if you still have no idea what I'm talking about, those are the names for the universes that exist in the book series that make up things like The Interview with the Vampire, The Vampire Lestat, Queen of the Damned.
It's the Anne Rice verse.
It's the Anne Rice verse that doesn't include any of her weird Christian stuff or the Mummy books.
The Mummy books are part of the Vampire series.
No.
Yeah, they
when
are.
I was looking it up, Ramsey was not part of it. He's part of the Immortal Universe, but he's not part of the Tales of the Vampire Universe, which Mayfair Witches is part of the Tales of the Vampire Universe, but...
100% Ramsey crosses over into the Vampires books.
I was looking at the Wikipedia when I started looking at this show initially, because, fun fact, the show was recommended to us by our sister, by which I mean my sister told me she wanted me to watch a show, and we didn't have a show to review yet, so...
I mean, I suggested Class, the Doctor Who spinoff, mainly because I initially thought it was a spinoff centered around Bill.
Yeah.
It's not. It's centered around the college that the Doctor teaches at during the season with Bill. Bill's not involved. I think she's in like 1 episode, maybe.
That sounds not as good.
That said, the show has got a lot of comparisons to like calling it like a British Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I mean, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
We might have to do it at some point in the future.
And I was honestly just looking for an excuse to start it because...
Yeah, understandable. You don't have any more quality stuff.
God,
you've actually made progress on Doctor Who, which is crazy.
I've also made progress on One Piece. I'm through Skypia, but that's a different... We'll get to that in July. But Doctor Who, we're making it.
Nice. But so Mayfair Witches is based on the book series by Anne Rice, also titled The Mayfair Witches, and episode 1 is called
The Witching Hour.
I thought you would have been on top of that.
Sorry.
That's your shiz.
Sorry, yeah, it is, but I was still in Capaldi.
Yeah, I know. That's interstitial content. We're talking about...
You're the one that brought it up.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're the one that brought up the Class.
I did bring up Class. That's
you brought up Doctor Who stuff.
But you specifically brought up my progress in Doctor Who.
So episode 1 of Mayfair Witches starts with we see a woman sitting on a porch, and she's
sitting on the porch of like this Gothic styled southern mansion.
Gothic styled plantation house.
Yeah, those are the right words.
Mm-hmm. And she seems out of it, dazed, looking into nothing. And we see a doctor approach.
She's staring into the nothing box.
Yeah. And we see a doctor walk up. He gives her a shot of some sort, and then he says he's going to review her files before he gives her another one.
Oh, no, he doesn't even give her a shot. He bends down to check on her, says some things to her, but like he knows she can't respond.
Yeah.
And then the caretaker of the house steps out, and she's like, they don't like it when her shot's late. And he turns to her, he's like, well, we're gonna have to wait even longer.
I'm gonna review the patient file before I do anything here.
And then he's reviewing the patient file, and he's like talking to himself like, I don't understand how this can be the patient file for that woman. She's only 47, but like this is a lifetime's worth of documented care.
Yeah, this is like a Genarian's fucking medical history.
But like the medical file is like got a lot of notes about severe paranoia, delusions, suicide attempts. But while he's reviewing this file, he looks out on the porch
and he sees a man standing out there talking to her.
And
did we see in her file her name, right?
I don't remember.
I think we see her name in the file, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This woman's name is Deirdre. So he looks out to where Deirdre is and sees a man talking to her. But then when he goes out there, the guy's just gone.
And he asks the caretaker about the guy that was talking to Deirdre. And the caretaker starts gaslighting him immediately.
Like, there's no one there. What are you talking about? She's been out here by herself the whole time. Why would there be anyone else here? It's just you, me, her guardians will be back soon. Shit like that, yeah.
And then he decides that he's going to pretend to give her the shots, get paid for giving her the shots, but not give her the shots.
Let her actually wake up, which at first glance is like clearly malpractice and technically still is, but also, as we'll shortly learn, also giving the shots would be malpractice because this is abuse, clearly, and we'll learn that it's even more abuse as we continue throughout the episode.
It's not abusive to keep your granddaughter in a coma for 40 years, 30 years.
You're right, but it is abusive to keep your niece
my bad.
In a coma, in a medically induced coma for like 40 years.
If they're your granddaughter, not abuse. If they're your niece, actual abuse.
Yep. I'm willing to make that statement and stand by it, I guess.
Take that from us, your co-pilots, who are both certified pilots and certified lawyers, legally allowed to practice in all 50 states.
I'm not a lawyer, but I am a legal expert.
Certified to practice law in all 50 states.
And some territories.
Technically, that's not wrong, right? Because you're allowed to represent yourself. Like, so technically everybody's certified.
But it's not considering practicing law. So.
Okay.
So we cut from there to this woman just driving a boat out on the open sea. She lives on the boat. It's a boathouse. We see that she lives on her boat.
It's Alexandra Daddario.
Yeah, who played Annabeth Chase in the Percy Jackson movies, those bad movies.
Apparently, she also stars in White Lotus.
I haven't watched it. Apparently, it's good.
But she was also in Baywatch and a whole bunch of other stuff.
I mentioned the one thing I was aware of.
Oh, were you not aware she was in Baywatch?
No.
Do you know the remake was Zac Efron and The Rock?
I'm aware it's a movie.
She was also in White Collar.
No.
She played Neil Caffrey's girlfriend.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Literally yes.
No.
Do you think I'm wrong or is this a bit?
I think you're wrong.
I'm literally on Google right now.
You're wrong.
No, I know she looks like a younger version of the agent's wife. But she also,
fun fact, I think was also on Baywatch, actually.
But she
not the remake, but the original one.
But she was also Neil Caffrey's girlfriend in that movie.
No.
You know, the one that blew up in the plane?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
No.
This bit is not good for the podcast.
Yes, it is.
It's not good audio content for you just to say no every time I say something.
Stop being wrong.
I'm not wrong, though.
Anyways, though, so we continue on with her day, and it's her adoption day, so they're celebrating it like a birthday. She visits her mom. That's when we learn it's the day she was adopted, so they're celebrating.
Well, her mom visits her on the boat when she arrives back.
Yeah, I mean, close enough.
You can't know me when I'm saying facts, and then just be like, close enough, I was wrong, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot a word. She didn't visit her mom. She visits with her mom. I forgot the word with. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we use a very imperfect language, so saying visits and forgetting one word implies that she goes somewhere, whereas including the word that I did want doesn't necessarily imply she goes anywhere at all. And she works at a hospital. We know this because then she goes to work. And she's a surgeon.
We actually know this because she mentions this in the conversation with her mother.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not really important. The conversation she has with her mom is unimportant. It's, I adopted you, I'm so proud of you, you're a doctor, yay.
Okay.
Legitimately, the entire time with her mother is just to establish that she's adopted.
Yeah, and that she's a doctor.
We don't need to establish that. We get that literally in the next scene.
But it's established in this scene, so...
We also know her name.
Yeah, we do get her name. We also get the doctor's name. The doctor's Dr. Stevens.
Yeah.
And
But the doctor's name is also Rowan, because she's also a doctor.
Good thing we cleared this up. Dr. Stevens is the doctor that was treating Deirdre.
Yeah.
And then Rowan is this doctor that we were talking about on the houseboat.
Honestly, this show is just filled with doctors.
It's not filled with doctors. It's
like ER.
It's got like 4 doctors.
That's too many doctors.
And I don't even know one of their names.
Yeah.
I know it's got like 5 doctors because the neuroscientist dies.
I mean, the neuroscientist wasn't a doctor.
He's definitely a PhD.
No, he was just a CEO, businessman.
He's a PhD.
I don't think so.
He specifically mentions being a doctor in his like big lecture about like...
Does he?
Yeah. He's like talking about like coming up in the field. And like, yeah, he doesn't like say I was a doctor, but he mentions like being a doctor.
Whatever. Anyways, though, so she goes into work and she's meeting with one of her patients. It's a young boy who's going to need surgery and he's really nervous. And she basically promises him that he's going to be fine, which isn't something you should do as a doctor.
I think it's like actively like advised against.
Yeah, it is, because technically you can be sued for making false promises. But like the way it's worded, it's not necessarily a promise, but it really comes across as one. So she's getting ready to go into surgery. She scrubs in for it and everything. She's talking with, I think it's another doctor. It's one of her friends.
Yeah, it's like
another surgeon.
It's like the surgeon that's training under her or something. Like
I don't know all the words.
I don't know if like there's an actual hierarchy or if like this surgeon has just viewed Daddario's character as
Rowan.
like her mentor.
Yeah. But anyways, so Rowan is scrubbing in for surgery and her friend informs her that apparently Dr. Keck, the head of surgery, has decided to take over this operation because the board is watching.
Yeah.
And so Rowan's kind of reasonably upset because this guy doesn't do pediatric surgery normally ever. He doesn't really seem to do surgery that often or care about it. But hey, because the surgery is in front of the board, even though it's also apparently not like a super
they mentioned that
high profile surgery.
That he does surgeries every day.
Yeah, but he does like high profile surgeries.
And like non.
Yeah, and the only reason why he's doing this one is because the board wanted to watch this one.
Yeah, and like so they're getting ready to slice and dice this kid. That's the medical term.
Yes, it is.
And he's wanting to like go in from the front.
No, he wants to go in from the side because the boy is currently positioned on his side. And when she gets in, Rowan's like, "Hey, I think you should put him on his back." I highly suspect that he has some issue with like the condition of I think it's I fucking know it.
I have no idea. The medical jargon just like...
It was actually fairly accurate medical jargon. I only know because I sat down and watched this with my sister, so she mentioned which things were... As she does, as most medical professionals do, or other people do when they're watching a show that they're knowledgeable about. They point out when things are kind of accurate or not.
Yeah, it's like when I watched Hills and I was like, look at all this wrestling stuff.
Yeah. But so she suspects that there's a deformation of some sort in, like, I think it says artery or heart, somewhere around there.
That if they open him from the side will cause another bleed.
Yes, because it's like a thinning and too much pressure involved.
Yeah, and so Keck opens him from the side.
Yeah, because Keck's like, we didn't have a chance to do any grafts or anything before we came in to do this. We didn't have time for it. So you're telling me this is all just based on suspicion.
Intuition.
No, I'm not going to do that.
And then she's like, hey, last time you didn't listen to me, you almost killed a kid.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't care. That's not how we're doing this.
And so he proceeds to almost kill a kid.
Yeah, because he opens them from the side, and like, they're having this conversation while the kid's still cut open, which, I mean, honestly, I don't think you should be having these side conversations during surgery, but what do I know? And then one of the attending nurses is like, we're losing pressure. He's losing a lot of blood pressure right now. So then Keck steps in and is like, put him on his back. Apparently the surgery goes fine. The kid's fine.
Mm-hmm. After the surgery, Rowan bumps into her mother at the hospital, which is convenient.
Very.
Like, I guess her mom was probably like...
Yeah, I assume her mother was going out of her way to find her.
Yeah. But her mom's like, it's back. And like, she doesn't clarify.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lie. Anytime anyone's in a hospital and they're just like, it's back, my assumption is, oh, okay, so your disease of some sort, normally cancer, because it's the one that aggressively comes back generally, is what my brain goes to. Unless it's a horror movie, and then I assume someone has died to a monster that these people have witnessed before.
Yeah, the monster is back. Yeah, that's like...
There are two options. It's cancer or a monster. And some people would argue they're both the same thing.
Well, you see, this is the immortal universe, and like, her just being like, it's back. I was like, oh, wait, we got vampires back already? Shows people that, no, it's cancer.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a vampire.
I mean, vampires take things from you. Cancer technically gives you more cells.
But it leaches off you. Cancer
Yeah, no, I realize.
Yeah, it's a parasite.
Anyways, though, so Rowan's pretty upset, and that's when she realizes that one of the people who was observing the surgery was a CEO for a company running clinical trials that have proven pretty successful for a new cancer drug.
Daniel Limley.
Mm-hmm. Limley?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they say it's Limley.
That makes sense, too. I was reading notes.
Rowan decides to talk to the chief of medicine, the chief of surgery, actually.
Dr. Keck.
Mm-hmm. To try to get him to recommend her for a part-time research job at the company. In the hopes that it'll allow her to get a in for her mother at the trial.
Like she like broaches the subject with him, and she's like, I was just hoping you could put in a good word. Like, that would be a part-time thing. It wouldn't interfere with me at the hospital. He's like, what good word do you want me to put in? And she's like, I don't know. You could tell him, like, the truth, that I'm hardworking and, like...
I have a good track record.
And he's like, or you're right. I could tell him the truth, that you're a kiss-ass and you think you're better than everybody. And
yeah, sure, you try to appear civil and professional, but it's really easy to notice that you think you're better than everyone else and that you are overly confident and arrogant, like you were with that kid today. You just assumed you knew what was going on with no actual evidence or proof.
She was right, though.
Yeah, she was right.
And
like, as that's going on, she's starting to get kind of angry, and we see like a flash of a brain, and we're kind of going in through different neural pathways and stuff, and we see a anterior artery. I think it's on his prefrontal cortex.
You're putting way too much detail into it. She just pops a blood vessel in his brain.
I mean, it's more than a blood vessel. It's a major pathway for blood, not just a vessel. Which is why when he comes back later, I'm surprised. He doesn't die here, which is why I'm surprised, because they had to immediately rush this man into surgery.
I mean, he is in a hospital.
Yeah, but apparently, supposedly, at least according to him, he's the best surgeon. So, like, the second best surgeon operated on him. So, apparently, the second best surgeon is also really good at emergency brain surgery that they definitely didn't have any scans on at first. I mean, they can assume it's something probably wrong with his brain because he just dropped. But you're going to need to be doing scans to check his heart rate and shit to figure out if it's a heart attack or what. Yeah, you're going to do imaging to see if he had, like, a fucking stroke or something, but...
We then jump from Rowan attempting to murder a man with her psychic powers
to her tearfully telling her mother about how she tried to murder a man with her psychic powers during her mother's chemotherapy.
No. We jump from that to the past. We go back to the past, where Deirdre is sitting in a confessional booth, confessing to a pastor all these sins, and the priest asks about if she's still been seeing the man.
Yeah, and she's just like, no, I don't really need him anymore, and he just hasn't been around.
But the priest doesn't really believe her, and then she admits that the man has always been around even before her mom died.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like family to her.
Almost a father, really.
Yeah, and she's like, he's not as crazy as like my aunts are, so like,
it's probably better. And the father just like, insert number of Hail Marys, insert number of Holy Fathers, do those, and
he's like, not that you will.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, she is scratching the name Lasher into the confessional booth. With her rosary? Yeah.
Yeah, with her rosary.
And then she exits out of the church?
Yeah, and there's a bunch of girls tossing flowers in the air that they apparently took from a funeral or from the altar or something. I'm not remembering the details on that. A nun's yelling at them, and our character here, Deirdre,
sees a man off in the distance. And honestly, kind of attractive man.
And he looks very similar to the mystery man that the doctor saw earlier.
And then we see an old woman who I recognize. She's been in so many things, but I could not place her actress.
Her name is Beth Grant.
Okay. Get out of the car and yell at Deirdre. Did you get in the car so they can go?
Yes, indeed. Beth Grant, American character actress. She was in the Mindy Project.
I haven't watched the Mindy Project.
Yeah, we did.
I did not.
I could have sworn we watched.
I've never watched the Mindy Project.
With our sister.
I've never watched the Mindy Project.
Okay, my bad. And I haven't either. She was in Speed with Keanu Reeves, and No Country for Old Men, Child's Play 2.
Look, I just know I recognize her.
Dollface.
Oh yeah, she's in Dollface.
Also, she was apparently in Donnie Darko, although I don't remember that, so...
Oh, was she the old lady whose house they break into at the end?
Maybe?
She was the one who, like, had the weird mailbox and the one that they called a crazy old lady.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I've seen her in a lot of things. I just couldn't place her off the top of my head.
Yeah, I love Donnie Darko. That movie's so good.
It gets worse every time I see it.
Yeah. That's why I haven't watched it in like a decade. So I can just remember how good it is and not have to actually like go back and watch it.
Yeah, but from here is where we then cut back to Rowan.
No, not yet. Because she gets back to their house, and her aunt is like, how many times have I told you not to encourage him?
Oh, yeah, and she yells at her and like sends her to her room to think about what she's done.
And there in her room is the man, who we now know is Lasher. Then Deirdre admits that she's frustrated because everybody always treats her like a child, and Lasher goes, I don't. And she goes, yeah, you
know
do.
exactly what I want from what we have here, and yet that clearly hasn't happened, so obviously you treat me like a child.
And Lasher's like, well, maybe it's because you behave like one.
Well, he says something along the lines of like, no, that's not right. She aggressively pouts at the mirror, and he's like, you're literally acting like one right now. He
then segues into a story about her mother when she was Deirdre's age, saying that she was always going to parties at her brother's house.
Here's the thing, though. So I'm not... Like, from the way it's talked about, because the way Lasher explains it, it sounds like her mother would also get fed up with, assumedly, her sisters and then go to her brother's house for parties. But I'm not sure. Like, it could also be this entire thing where, like, these are actually, like, her great uncle and great aunt.
Well, Lasher specifically calls out Cortland as Deirdre's mother's brother.
Oh, yeah, he does. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain was just sitting here thinking for a moment, though, because it's like...
I imagine that...
Every time the relationship's talked about, it sounds like such a parental difference between all the siblings and her mother.
I imagine that Deirdre's mother was the youngest.
Like, quite a bit younger than everyone else, yeah.
Yeah, like, our relationship to our sister age difference.
Yeah.
Then Deirdre essentially eventually, at Lasher's insistence, decides to go to one of Cortland's famous parties because he has them every weekend, apparently.
Yeah, and she wears the same dress he was talking about her mother wearing.
Man, I wish I was rich enough to just be able to throw a party every weekend.
Right?
Do you know how expensive actual party throwing is? It's
so expensive. And this is not like a low down-to-earth party when we get to it. It is a pretty fancy party.
Like, if you're just having, like, a dozen people over, that's a little expensive.
Yeah.
But, like, if you have, like, an open invitation party, which is what Cortland's parties apparently are,
that's so expensive.
And then we jump back to the present.
And this is where Rowan is now crying to her mom about how she's pretty sure she killed a man with her psychic powers while her mother's getting chemotherapy. And her mother's just like, that's ridiculous. You definitely don't have psychic powers.
It's so weird to me that, like, Rowan's immediate thought is, I have psychic powers.
With no proof that the thing that she imagined is what actually happened to Keck, because she's too scared to see what actually caused him to fall. Like, as far as she's aware, I assume at this point she's probably heard he had brain surgery, but she doesn't know if her imagining his fucking, like, anterior artery in his brain popping is what happened, or, you know, any other number of things, because brains, hear me out on this, brains, pretty easy to fuck up. Just squishy meats that die and get damaged really easy.
Well, also, like, it's completely possible that even though she remembers having that vision before he dropped to the floor.
Yeah, she was angry and then hysterical from watching a guy just fucking fall to the floor and almost die.
That could be a falsely created memory from trauma. As a medical professional, she should be aware that can happen. And so, but apparently it's happened to her in the past as well, when she was a kid.
Yeah, apparently there was a girl that got hurt with, like, just like what she imagined it. But she's just like, maybe it's like something with my genetics. I don't know, but, you know, I don't know anything about my genetics.
Maybe my genetics have made me psychic.
Look. Have you read the comic X-Men? What if I'm an X-Men? Quite a few of them are from, like, the New Orleans area. What if I'm an X-Men, Mom? You should get my genetics checked out.
Oh, she doesn't even know she's from New Orleans.
I know. I understand.
Yeah.
But
she, like, lives in San Diego, right? San Francisco. Yeah. One of the sands of California.
But she's trying to see if her mother could do anything about getting her adoption papers released. And her mom, she's like, you know, they're sealed. I can't do that. I understand. We've talked about this and tried to do it before, but there's nothing I can do. So Rowan, disappointed, gets up and walks away. And then her mother reaches into her purse and pulls out a card with this fancy symbol on it and calls the number.
And when she calls the number, she's like, hey, I need to talk to whoever's looking into my daughter's case.
Yeah.
And, like, honestly, at this point, it just kind of feels like maybe it is an adoption agency.
Except, of course, that the camera pushed way too much in on the symbol on the card, so you know if something's up.
Yeah. I mean, I totally saw that.
You did not pay attention to the camera push, did you?
Look, spoiler alert for my take on this show. The first episode's fine.
Yeah.
But mostly the show is just boring with a capital B, capital O,
like it's
capital R.
It's a slow start. Like, I don't know, maybe with more magic and less just the exact same cut of someone's brain, not even really popping a vessel, but just like a slow unzipping of part of the vessel wall. Because this happens again in this episode. Fun fact, we'll get to it.
Look, if I was psychic, I wouldn't be using it to pop people's brain vessels.
Yeah, no.
Although I guess she's not intentionally doing that, but like...
maybe not, who knows?
Fair enough. But the woman that Ellie, Rowan's adoptive mother, talks to is like, there is a person handling your daughter's case. He's not available right now. I will have him give you a call back when he is available.
Yeah, I would like to briefly just touch on like the place this woman's working at, because she calls and we see the other woman at her location. And this one woman's just at a desk in the middle of a giant like central hub room.
Yeah.
And then she walks off to like an old filing system.
Also,
and, like,
in this conversation, Ellie is like, I need to know if anything's changed in New Orleans.
Yes.
Like, I need to know if things are different in New Orleans.
Yeah, but this place just feels like kind of archaic, but also like it's meant to be kind of secretive. They've used a lot of dark coloring and panels.
Because in any world with magic and secret organizations, technology for the secret organizations and magic stop at roughly right before
the internet, at the very latest.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why, right? Like, you think if you have magic and technology, it just gets easier.
Yeah, but no. I have no idea, man. So many things do that. It drives me fucking crazy.
Like Warehouse 13, The Librarians.
Like, you know, sometimes I'm just like, man, I really want some modern fantasy. And then you see a book or a show that's just like, setting something
Dresden.
setting something in the modern times, and it's like blah 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 and magic, and it's like that's so cool. And then you read it, and it's just like, nope, we're not gonna do anything with technology. It's like, then why is it set in current times? Why do that? Just give me a fantasy setting then.
So Rowan, who still believes she psychically almost murdered a man,
Yep.
decides that she's gonna go get drunk
And get laid.
and she convinces her friend with benefits
Max,
/
the
bartender to go back to her place.
By convince, we mean she just says, fuck it, fine, I won't hook up with you, I'll hook up with someone else. And then he's like, damn it. So he hooks up with her.
He wants a committed relationship. She does not. That's their relationship dynamic.
Yeah. I guess we get one little bit of foreshadowing here-ish. After they hook up, he's trying to explain that, yeah, I actually want a relationship with you. I want to find the one. I want to find someone. And she's like, I guess I can kind of relate to that. Like, I feel like I used to think about my shadow like it was the one. Like, it had always been there with me and knew everything about me and knew all my secrets. And then one day it just disappeared.
Well, and also she's like, my shadow was a masculine presence, too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do what I was thinking, and it loved me no matter what. And then it just disappeared one day.
Yeah, and he's just like, weird. And then she continues going on about how she doesn't care about doing anything with him. So he puts on his pants and she's like, where the fuck are you going? He's like, I'm leaving.
And then we cut back to Cortland's party.
Yep.
Everyone is shocked but delighted that Deirdre is there because her aunts are apparently incredibly oppressive.
Yeah.
When we meet Cortland, he's initially like holding a snake. Just like casually holding a snake.
Getting a foot massage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's recruiting a young man.
To find two other young men.
And, well, he's choosing out of these young men.
No respective idea of what they're for, but he's just picking between two young men.
I'm going to go ahead and ruin it. He's finding a young man to deflower his niece.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Which I think Cortland's in league with the ants in some manner.
I think Cortland's in league with Lasher.
Fair enough, yeah. Maybe not the ants. Although the ants seem to want Deirdre drugged and bound to Lasher, so Lasher can't be out in the world. So
I mean, they kind of just wanted them to not interact with him. We'll get there after this episode. We can talk about things.
Okay, but yeah,
I think I have a different interpretation than you.
So Deirdre's at the party. She's talking to Cortland. He compliments her dress, saying her mother had one just like it.
Yeah,
it was her mother's.
He gives her a drink. They drink. She meets the nice young man he found. Not through him, but they bump into each other.
He asks her to dance.
They dance. They dance a lot. They go hook up in a bedroom.
Mm-hmm. And Lasher watches them hook up from the distance. Like, creepy he is.
During it, we get, like, the scene of them having sex, and in that is intercut with Lasher somewhat. And then the guy on top changes to a guy with masks and, like, claws.
Yeah, he transforms into a demon.
Uh-huh. And then we're kind of just done with that scene.
And then the next morning, Aunt Carletta arrives.
Mm-hmm.
She's angry at her brother for letting Deirdre party.
Yeah. And we see that someone is being carted away under a sheet.
Yeah, a dead body is being taken out the back as Aunt Carletta is out front, standing in front of the car like she does. We then pop back to the present where we meet Cyprian.
Yeah.
Who is the agent assigned to Rowan, and he's arriving in New Orleans at the house to check if anything's changed. And it's still the same mansion from the opening scene.
Yeah, he then calls Ellie, and it's just like, nothing's changed in New Orleans. Everything still seems fine.
Before he calls, he puts his hand on the fence.
Yeah.
Which, like, he lets him see, like, through a portal, and like the portal looks into the past, and there's a woman in pink hovering above the ground, and Lasher looking up at her.
Man, he's got touch-based memory powers.
Yeah.
There's a word for it, and I can't remember what it is.
Psychometry.
Yeah, he's a psychometrist, it seems.
I only remember that because it's a power in Vampire the Masquerade.
But I always forget it. So then
the reason I remember it is because it's like the associated power to one of the houses I like.
Yeah.
The Tremere.
That sounds right. But so then he calls Ellie and is like, everything's good. It seems the man is still here in New Orleans. You don't have anything to worry about. And Ellie's like, that's fine for now, but what happens when I die? What happens for the time when you call and I'm not here to pick up the phone? He's just like, I promise you, I will keep Rowan safe.
Maybe it's not the Tremere. The Tremere, the wizard vampires?
The Tremere are the wizard vampires.
Then it's not Tremere.
I believe you're thinking of the Toreador.
Toreador, that's the one. Thank you. Sorry. But yeah, Cyprian's like, if you don't answer your phone, I'll still be here doing my job, protecting Rowan, da-da-da-da-da.
And then we cut back to Rowan, who is, it's now a new day, and Rowan is going to wherever the fuck Lindley's business office is. Yeah,
and she, like, arrives and he's giving this presentation to a bunch of potential investors or new recruits or something. I think it's potential investors.
Yeah, it's this whole thing of like, look, blah, 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 science will make people's lives longer. This is going to be great. Let's do it. Let's go team.
So
we all deserve to live longer because we're white and rich.
And he ends the whole speech with, look around you. The people you're looking at might be the first generation of people
to never die.
To never have to die.
Yeah.
Which, if there's one thing I've learned about any scientist in any show ever, as soon as they say, look around. We may never have to die. They're the villain.
Yeah.
They are...
Or they're the first to die.
They are the villain. They are perfectly encapsulated a villain.
So then he walks up to Ro and asks her how she liked the speech. And she's like, well, I guess I never put together that this study that you're doing with stem cells for cancer was also just to prolong life. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, if we can beat cancer, that's like the biggest fucking one, you know?
But it's like, I mean, he's not wrong. Like, even
he's really not wrong. Like,
if you could solve the issue of telomeres degrading over time, cancer would still be the thing that kills us.
Yeah, cancer would be the big one. So he's talking and she's like, okay, I'm ready for the interview or whatever. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Let's go see where we're going to work.
And so he leads her through the facility and up to his like private office, and he's like, "Oh, look at this statue! It's an original by da 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 da."
It's an original Rodin.
Rodin, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just has this open like urinal area.
It's not open. When he exits, you can see there was a sliding pocket door he could have closed.
Oh,
which makes it worse.
Yeah. So he goes over and takes a piss while continuing the conversation with her, and like she's incredibly like
she actively backs up out of the line of sight where, you know, she'd seen in the bathroom.
Yeah, and like she's uncomfortable because honestly, he should have been like, I gotta use the bathroom 1 second. I'll be right back. That's the sane human way to handle. Yeah. But he's not a sane person. He's a
rich white guy who thinks he can live forever and deserves to live forever.
Yeah. So he comes out of the bathroom and he essentially like takes her over to his desk and hands her a list of 30 names. He's like, pick one, kick him out.
Yeah, you're a shark. You gotta be a shark. Pick one of these people, remove him, your mother gets in.
And she's like, I
think we could fit 31 in. And he's like, you've never dealt with the FDA. You definitely can't do that. And she's like, well, can't you pick one? He's like, nope, that's all on you. If you can't do it, you don't deserve to be here. So she's like, yeah, no, if I did that, I could never look at my mother's face again. She would hate me for it. And he's like, I guess you're not what I thought you were. And she's like, well, you know what you fucking are? And goes into, oh, he's a piece of shit who thinks he's smarter than he is, was clearly duped by a fake Rodin statue.
And that
feels that pissing in front of other people makes him superior, and the fact that he can just do that in front of a woman makes him strong. And she's getting really, really fucking angry. And he pops a blood vessel in his brain somehow and dies.
And then we cut back to the past again. Back to the past. It's a Code Lyoko reference.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
I'm aware.
So, Deirdre?
Yeah.
Deirdre. For some reason, I keep mixing the name up with the name of the blonde guy who makes explosive clay statues in Naruto.
I guess.
Their names are spelled similar and like...
Yeah.
But Deirdre is crying to Father Duffy about her family's troubled past and how no one believes her.
Well, first off, it's 9 months later.
Oh, yeah.
She's super pregnant.
And she's like saying that she thinks her mother was pushed from the balcony, that she didn't jump. And Father Duffy was like, no, she jumped to her death.
Yeah, and she's also convinced that Aunt Carlotta had Patrick killed. And she's convinced that that was the body she had seen being corded off.
Duffy also thinks that it was the man, Lasher, who impregnated her mother.
Who impregnated Deirdre.
Oh, Deirdre.
And she's just like, no, it was Patrick, and I think Aunt Carlotta killed him, and I'm really scared, and I don't feel comfortable here. And he's just like, no, of course not. Your family is nothing like that. They're really important.
And then she susses out that he's terrified of the ants as well.
Yeah.
We also always get the term ants, even though we've only met Carlotta.
Yeah.
So that should probably play into something in the future. But after he leaves, or...
He eventually is just like, whatever, none of that matters. I think you just need to be saved, basically. He's just like, look, you just really need to embrace Catholicism more, and everything will be fine. So she kicks him out because he's doing nothing to resolve anything and just ignoring any complaints she has. And she goes to jump off her balcony.
Like her mother.
Yeah.
But then Lasher stops her with magic powers.
Yeah, he just appears out of nowhere, grabs her hand, and pulls her back.
Yeah. She says she has no reason to live because she just knows that the ants will never let her baby live the life that it deserves to live. And Lasher tells her that
this baby will change your life.
It will change everything.
And that he can help her. She just needs to willingly bind her will and her life with him. And he says that the necklace you're wearing, the one that your mother gave you, is that. And that's why you can see and talk to me, basically. But you need to make this decision for yourself. So you need to see something. And then he goes through all kinds of weird demon reveals, a bunch of different faces, weird
because she accepts him and he has to like do his whole, this is who I really am.
Yeah, and she's just like, okay, whatever, puts necklace back on.
And so in his own words, he is now eternally hers, entirely hers, sorry.
Yeah. And then she goes into labor.
Yep, and puts the necklace back on.
Yeah.
Which apparently, as long as she's wearing the necklace now that he entirely is hers, he can't like travel away from her. He's bound to her. We know that because we jump back to the present.
I mean, she gives birth to her child here.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And then as she tries to hold her child, Carlotta whisks her away, says the doctor needs to see her, and then disappears.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the present.
But the aunt is also like handing this baby to a woman, and she's like, she can never know where she's from, da 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 da. And the woman she's handing her to is Elle.
Yeah. They've driven off into the middle of a field nowhere. She's like, you are no longer a Mayfair. You cannot call. You cannot contact. You will change your name. You can never tell her where she came from. And this Ellie is just like, understood, auntie, and leaves.
Also, I don't think her name was in the medical files that we saw, because this is supposed to be like a full circle moment where we find out that the woman in the chair this entire time has been Deirdre. Although, like, you could piece it together, but like I think that was supposed to be like a moment.
Maybe, I don't know, man.
But then we jump back to the present day, and Dr. Stevens, I think his name was?
Dr. Keck?
No.
Lindley.
No. The doctor.
Oh, yeah, the other doctor.
Oh, so many doctors.
Deirdre's doctor.
He is back to treat her again, and he notices like scratch marks around the necklace.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you poor thing.
You've been trying to take this off, and he takes it off for her, and then he pretends to give her another shot. He has a whispered conversation with her real fast about how she has to pretend that she's still under so that
he can have time to get a lawyer involved, make sure they can get her out of here, and also so the drugs can wear off and she'll be fine.
And then we cut to Rowan, who wakes up in her boathouse and sees a man outside her window, and it's Lasher, but she doesn't really notice that, but we can see that it's Lasher. And that's the end of this episode.
No?
What am I missing?
Rowan's mom dies at the very end of this episode.
Oh, that's true too. My bad.
Rowan's mom dies. She's crying and she's like really fucked up. And then Cyprian also gets a call that Lasher's on the move.
Yeah, because the necklace has been removed from Deirdre.
Yeah, so he goes to call Ellie and no one picks up.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Like in episode foreshadowing what happens when I can't pick up the phone.
Yeah,
good moment. I liked that because a lot of shows just wouldn't have him make that phone call on camera.
I would agree. So, thoughts on the first episode of Mayfair Witches?
This is the best of the two episodes.
Yeah.
And it's still very boring.
I would argue it's stronger in the back half of the episode.
Yeah, but it's still kind of very boring.
I would agree. Honestly, most of the Deirdre stuff kind of bores me.
Which, I liked Interview with the Vampire and Lestat and the 3 or 4 books in that series I read. But Anne Rice's stories always start off
very slow.
Painstakingly slow.
Yeah. And literally the one that has the fastest start is Queen of the Damned.
Yeah.
And that's just because Queen of the Damned assumes you've actually been reading the rest of the series, which the rest of the series doesn't ever seem to think you need to have read any of the other books.
Oh, no, that's not true. Vampire Lestat, if you pick that book up cold, you're going to be so fucking confused.
Yeah,
it's slow as fuck, but like...
Yeah, I'm talking about like the way it slow rolls at the beginning though so much. It's trying to be a new book entirely in itself, entirely new intro to the series. Like it feels like someone trying to set up a new universe every time you pick up a book, except Queen of the Damned is just like, nope, you already know everything, let's go, action.
Yeah, which is why Queen of the Damned was the only one that made a successful movie.
Yeah.
They didn't even make Lestat into a movie, did they? They skipped it. We have Interview with a Vampire, the movie, and Queen of the Damned, the movie, but there's no...
Yeah, I don't think there's a Vampire Lestat movie.
Which is fair. Vampire Lestat.
Pretty boring.
That book was like, I fought that book.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have to agree. I think the episode was all right, but like better at the end. But you were saying something about Uncle Cortland. So if you want to, because nothing in this next episode shapes any of my opinion of whether or not I think he is on the side of the ants or not.
I think like the ants have the ants seem to be actively keeping Lasher bound to her.
I think they're just trying to actively get in the way of any of Lasher's goals, and they don't want her to make a permanent deal with Lasher. So when she does, they decide the only way to contain Lasher and any of his goals is to keep her in a coma. Whereas I think Cortland's actively working with Lasher, and the man he hired became an avatar for him because Lasher doesn't seem to be entirely corporeal.
Yeah.
And the guy who then became demonish is when Lasher possessed his body. I think Cortland is actively at odds with the ant and working with Lasher, and the ants are trying to contain Lasher.
Fair enough.
I think they are actively working against each other.
I kind of assumed a larger plot, but what you're saying makes more sense.
It also is kind of represented in the way the two parties live their lives. The ants are very religious, uptight. Yeah, they live in a big home, but they don't seem to do anything, whereas Cortland is throwing this lavish masquerade party when we see him lounging about, very laissez-faire, with a giant fucking snake for some reason, getting a foot massage and being like very oddly turned on by being like, no. Don't worry about the pinky toe just yet. We'll get to that later. That'll be the fun bit.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that makes sense. Anyways, we move on to episode 2, The Dark Place, which opens in 17th century Scotland.
Yep.
in Donole,
Yep.
in a small cobblestone home,
Yep.
where a haggard-looking, tired woman is tending to a sickly man.
And then she sends off her 2 daughters to go fetch some herbs in the forest because they are apparently really going to need them.
Specifically Willowbark and Burdock.
Yeah. So
Burdock,
they're
sorry.
off. So we then cut to her daughters off in the field collecting stuff.
They're picking herbs,
Yep.
picking flowers and herbs, which I don't know what burdock is. Not gonna.
It's a root.
Okay, so they're not picking burdock, obviously.
Well, I mean, you could pick burdock, but I've only ever heard of people using burdock root.
And they're obviously not getting willowbark, so they're obviously not doing what was asked of them. They're just picking herbs.
I would assume they're collecting herbs on their way to like the location where they know to find those things. Like, oh, fuck it, I'm on my way. That was my assumption.
I just like how they were told to go get 2 specific things, and they're getting anything else.
But it's like when you go shopping, you're like, I'm going for 2 specific things, but you're in the fucking store.
So
they're in the fucking store. The store is the fucking forest. It's the 1700s.
No, but like
Well,
she specifically
17th
sends them out because the sun is setting.
Yeah.
So
it's
like
very much not setting in the next scene though, so it doesn't matter.
So in my brain, you're right. It is like going to the store and you go for 2 things, but you leave with like $200 worth of things. I get it. But also, the sun is setting, so she sent them out to go get them before the sun sets. So it's less like you're just going shopping.
Look,
and more like you have to go get these 2 things. You got to be back in 10 minutes.
Look, I get that. I understand that that's your issue here, and for some reason they're picking other stuff. You know what I think is a bigger balance than that? The fact that the older sister goes off to give a guy a hand job instead. That's probably more of a problem than picking extra herbs.
To be fair, he does threaten her.
I mean, yeah.
So, also, maybe we don't know what the relationship between this is with the rest of the story.
No, this is just a very weird scene. I assume this might be some previous old incarnation of Lasher, maybe?
Yeah, that's what my thought was.
Still an unpleasant time.
Yeah.
And very unnecessary to the bulk of this episode. By which I mean completely unnecessary to the rest of this episode. With no context, this scene just, it feels like a different show /
It ends with
thing.
Suzanne, the older sister, giving the man a double-handed hand job.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looks up at the sky and a bunch of crows fly away. And then that's the end of that. Yeah. And we're back to the modern day.
Yeah.
Where we have a distraught, despairing Rowan
Sitting in a fairly emptied out house, her mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
And
her adopted mother's house.
Yeah. I mean, it's her mother's house, Josh.
Her adopted mother's house. Her actual mother's house is in New Orleans.
I'm not getting into the semantics of actual / adopted parenting. That feels like a bad hole, and I feel like you've already picked the wrong side of that statement with the way you've worded things.
She specifically calls her mother her adoptive mother multiple times in this episode.
Yeah, we're going to ignore Rowan. She has problems.
I'm using Rowan's own chosen terms.
But she's calling the adoption agency to see if she can get anything about it, and also just to let them know that, hey, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but like my mother's dead, and yeah, I'm definitely an adult now, but I wasn't sure if you guys needed to know that or not, so I thought I'd mention it.
Just in case it changes how permissions work.
Yeah, and then the agency's just like, when were you adopted? I was adopted in 1991. You didn't get adopted from here. What? No, me and my mother definitely talked about.
We drove past here. She told me this story every year.
Of Southside Bay Agency adoption. And they're like, well, I guess she was wrong because we didn't start doing adoptions until 1995.
And so, with a sense of betrayal and angst, she hangs up the phone and stares into the middle distance.
And then she goes back to her boat and gets drunk.
As she's heading back to the boat, she notices a black car following her.
SUV, yeah.
Yeah. And then she gets drunk about it. Because getting drunk about it is the solution.
Yeah, and then we cut back to Nolan's, where Lasher is letting Deirdre know that, hey, I found her daughter. It'll be great. Everything will be fine. And he's letting Deirdre know this in like a mind palace situation that Deirdre has going on.
Mm-hmm. And he reminds her, hey, look, I told you that having this child would change your entire life. And that change is upon us.
Yeah, and she's just like, well, can I meet her? And Lasher's like, yeah, you can, but you're going to need to wake up and take the power that is rightfully yours. So she's like, sure, wakes up, basically. Like, it's a very slow process of waking up, but yeah.
But yeah, she wakes up, sees the caretaker of the house, the maid, feeding her. A single tear tumbles down her cheek. And then we cut to a hungover Rowan, sloppily making breakfast for herself.
And then checking her email for her work stuff.
And listening to the news. The news mentions the body of a woman found in Phoenix who was tied by her hands and feet and set on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is relevant going forward in the series, but I'm hoping it's a witch hunter.
Yeah, it sounds like a witch hunter thing.
Oh, please be a witch hunter.
And so she pulls up her email, and she's not on the work schedule at all this week, so she's like, what the fuck? And calls Keck.
And Keck's like, no, I took you off rotation because your mom died, dude.
Yeah. I'm sorry, she doesn't call. Calling would be too normal. She storms into his office and is just like, why the fuck am I not on the rotation? She's like,
she calls somebody, and that person's like, I don't know, you'll have to talk to Keck.
So she storms into Keck's office, why the fuck am I not on rotation? She's like, your mom just died. She's like, I see people die all the time. He's like, yeah, in a work environment.
Apparently he didn't like immediately take her off the schedule, but she's like, all of my surgeries post her death have gone perfect. He's like, yeah, but you're taking 1.3 times longer than normal to do your surgeries.
And that's not okay. And he's like, look, you need time off. Take time off. And she's like, I'm fine. He's like, your mother just died and you saw Limley die in front of you. And she's like, yeah, so. And he's like, look, I'm trying to be nice. Like, you need this time off. She's like, what I need is work. Work is going to help me through it. What do I need to do to prove that I'm fine? He's like, 2 floors up, go to the psychiatrist there. If she passes off on you, I'll let you back on the schedule.
Dr. Davis. I think this is Dr. 6 in the show.
Something like that.
Limley, Keck, Rowan's friend, Stevenson, Davis. Yeah, Dr. 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we then proceed to Rowan having a therapy session with Davis. Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, Cyprian is like scoping out her boat.
Yeah. And it's great. Like, they kind of bounce back and forth in this scene because the psychiatrist is like, how are you holding up? And Rowan's like, I'm actually doing pretty okay. I've accepted things. And Cyprian's walking around touching stuff. He touches the counter. We then see a hazy image of her just collapsed into the counter, drinking wine, and then just throwing the glass.
Also, empty packets of alprazolam, a drug. I don't know what it does. I'm assuming it's like a sleeping medicine.
Yeah. So we just see her going around and touching her stuff, getting to understand her grief and pain. He also sees what happened to Limley, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Alprazolam is a sedative meant to treat anxiety and panic disorders.
Yeah.
It's a controlled substance. So if she doesn't have a prescription, she's illegally taking drugs.
Yep. So we come back to the psychiatrist's office, and like the psychiatrist is just like seeming pretty okay with everything Ron's saying. And then the psychiatrist brings up Limley's death, and she's like, well, he just dropped dead in front of you. That'd be pretty terrifying.
And this is the conversation that you attributed to Keck earlier.
Yeah, you're right.
Where she's like, I see death all the time. And the psychiatrist is like, yeah, but in a hospital, in a controlled environment where you're expecting it. You were not expecting Limley to just drop dead. And she's like,
Rowan's starting to get a bit angry and upset.
I had nothing to do with it. Why does it matter?
And then the psychiatrist flinches and her nose starts bleeding. She's just like, don't worry about it. It happens all the time.
Her nose isn't bleeding yet.
Yeah, she flinches, has a headache, goes to find some medicine.
And then she turns back and her nose is bleeding.
Yeah. And so Rowan gets up and rushes out.
Yeah, and she's freaked out, rushing out of the session. And as she's like rushing to her car, she notices that it's covered in bird poop. And then
gets very angry about the idea of it.
A bunch of crows in a tree above her start squawking at her.
Yeah, and 3 fall down dead.
Yeah. But we see this also from Cyprian's view, and there's no bird poop on her car, and there's no crows, which is just, I mean,
from Cyprian's view, we do see her put 3 crows in a...
No, we see her do the action of picking up those crows. Those crows aren't in the shot. We don't actually see
when they were in his shot.
No. Okay. From Cyprian's viewpoint, there are no crows. Which is why this scene has got me fucked in the brains. I don't know what's up with the phantom crows. Mm-mm. But she wraps them up in like a jacket or something and then goes to a beach and buries them in a shallow sandy grave.
Yeah, and Cyprian's watching her from afar.
And then she takes some
pills and falls asleep on the beach.
Yep. She then has a dream about
her mother
being in New Orleans.
Being like, hey, you need to go. Follow me, come to this place. It seems like she's leading her to the house, and then she disappears before she gets there.
We should clarify, when you say her mother, you mean Ellie, the dead woman?
Yes.
Okay, because for a second there, I thought you meant Deirdre, and I was like,
I would have said Deirdre.
But Deirdre's her mother.
Yeah. So while that's happening, Cyprian calls someone and is like, hey, she's really struggling and I'm trying to, help her. I think I should tell her about everything that's going on.
And the person she's talking to is like, but then you wouldn't be protecting her from it anymore, would you? Like,
she needs to know so she can know what to avoid. And he's like, keeping it from her is just going to be more dangerous. She's already killed someone. It could happen again. And he's like, the other person he's talking to is like, do you want them to go to New Orleans to learn the truth? It's pretty dangerous. And Cyprian's like, yeah, you're right. We should keep her safe.
Yeah. Cyprian also mentions, like, before he was taken in by the agency, he was on the verge of killing people too, like
because he heard things all the time.
And his mother thought he was a devil.
Yeah.
And like it might really help her like quantify what's going on if she just knew. His coworker's like, yeah, but the client spent 30 years trying to keep her from finding out about New Orleans. If you go and tell her about it now, where do you think she's gonna go? What do you think she's gonna do?
So then we cut back to Deirdre
and Lasher.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her that it seems like she's waking up, but he asks her if she remembers the electric shock in the hospital. Where even then, with the electric shock and the electrolysis, she couldn't remember her own name, but she remembered how to stay in contact with him.
And how to call out to him, yeah.
The words that her mother taught her to call out to him.
And he tells her to use them. She does, and she fully wakes up.
Yes.
And when she wakes up, she sees Dr. Lamb, her doctor.
Oh, I thought his name was Stevenson.
I don't fucking know. I thought it was Dr. Lamb. She sees her doctor.
And he is pleased that the medicine seems to have worn off, and he says that he thinks he can get a lawyer involved, but she has to, like, this. I mixed this scene up with last episode. That's my bad.
You have to wait, though. And she's like, I can't. I gotta get out of here. And he's like, you just really need to wait.
And he pretends to administer the shot again, and Deirdre pretends to still be in a trance state.
Yep.
Back on the beach, Rowan is awoken by a party, which wild that she just wakes up on the beach and there's like a guy on a dirt bike riding around the beach and a party going on.
Honestly,
like,
it felt like an homage to Lost Boys style vampire parties.
Yeah, 100%. I was like,
she immediately wanders off the beach. Like, the setting for this is completely unnecessary. She just wakes up, looks around, wanders off.
She could have just woke up on the beach. They didn't need to cast these extras and
all these extras who apparently were just like, there's a passed out lady. What if we partied around her body?
What if we just had a party around her?
And then someone has to in that group have been like, how do we know it's not a dead body? Dude, that would just be so much more like dope. Like, what if we just partied around a dead body? Has anyone checked? Why would we, man?
But as she walks off, disoriented, she sees the black car again, and she feels like she's being followed, so she yells out. And then Cyprian steps out, and he's like,
I'm not here to hurt you or anything. His hands are up. He's like, I just want to help.
She attempts to leave. He grabs her by the wrist, and like his psychometry powers go off, and he collapses to the ground, and she calls an ambulance, administers like emergency
first aid.
Yeah, the ambulance shows up, takes him to the hospital. She steals his cell phone and then uses his face to unlock it.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, you can't ride in the ambulance, policy. And she's like, okay, I'll follow behind. So she gets to the hospital, but the ambulance has arrived earlier. He, at some point, woke up and was like,
He refused treatment,
Yeah, refused treatment.
Like, they got him there, and he's like, I'm not staying. I'm just going to go.
So when she asks them where the patient went, they're like, oh, he left. We can't do anything to stop him.
So, yeah, she goes through his phone and finds a bunch of pictures. Like, first it's pictures of her and, like, what he's been... Basically everything we've already seen already where he's taking pictures of her.
Yeah.
And then she sees a picture of her mother and her mother.
Deirdre and Ellie, yeah.
Yeah, together in front of the house in New Orleans. And it conveniently says at the bottom, New Orleans. It doesn't have, like, any other thing on it. It just says New Orleans. Which, honestly, who does that with, like, a picture? Especially what seems to be, like, a family picture. Who's just, what if we just put the name of the city that we all know we live in?
I've seen that in, like, pictures for, like, vacations.
Yeah, but never for, like, this is the home we live at. Then you don't really put, like, a date, maybe, like, an address if you've, like, just recently moved in or you're, like, getting ready to move or whatever, right? But never just, like, hey, you all know how we grew up in this city and live in this city? What if we put the name of this city on the bottom of this Polaroid we have?
And then there's another picture from that's dated 1990.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of Ellie outside the mansion. And in the background
is Lasher.
Yeah.
So she gets on a flight to New Orleans, obviously.
Like you do. To be fair, she's not allowed to work right now.
Yeah.
She is a surgeon, and she is... Other than the chief of surgery, the top performing surgeon.
Yeah.
But, and like...
There was a huge thing in the first episode, not even like a huge thing, but a thing where her friend was just like, I don't know why you let Keck treat you like that.
Well, there's also the thing in this episode where she's like, where Keck was like, your patients are spending 1.3 times as much time under anesthesia since your mother's death.
And she's like, it's still faster than you.
She's like, it's still faster than anybody else's times. And, like, he doesn't disagree with her. He's just like, the issue isn't that it's not fast enough.
It's that your efficiency is dropping, and thus your efficacy rate isn't as good.
And that
you're clearly showing problems with how you're doing your job.
And that points to potential future issues.
Yeah.
But she's not wrong, like...
But from her basically booking a flight, getting on the plane, we then cut to Deirdre, who is fully conscious and alert now.
And just walking around.
I mean, she's getting another visit from Lasher. And he's like, I'm going to give you the strength you need to find Rowan and everything. And also, she's on her way here right now.
Yep. And so Deirdre, like, back in her childhood bedroom, she puts the necklace back on, and Lasher is now rebound. Well, not even, like, bound to her. Like,
yeah.
Because he was only bound to her because she was in a state of unconscious and couldn't, like, facilitate him.
So Deirdre and Lasher hook up again. And in a very creepy thing, Deirdre and Rowan are apparently bound together enough that Rowan also experiences all of it asleep on the plane.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable moment. And then it's the next morning.
Yeah, and then... The next morning, Deirdre overhears Carletta and the maid talking about a meeting. Deirdre plans to crash the meeting. It's like church meeting of some sort, like not a church, but like a function of a church. Yeah. What's the look?
She doesn't plan to crash anything.
Okay.
Carlotta and the help are talking, and they both kind of talk about how they don't like the doctor in this moment, and they're talking about not letting him come back or whatever. And Deirdre's just waiting for Carlotta to leave. Carlotta leaves. Their maid goes off to do something, and Deirdre gets up to leave. And as she's getting ready to exit the front door,
the maid sees her, but the maid lets her leave.
Yeah.
As the maid is happy to see Deirdre up and walking around again.
Yeah.
Like, she's apparently not in on the whole keep you in a coma plan.
Yeah. So she lets Deirdre leave the house, and as Deirdre's leaving, we see a bunch of flower petals shower down on her.
And then we cut to an exhausted Rowan who arrives at her hotel, oblivious to the fact that she literally walks past her great aunt in the hotel lobby.
I mean, there's still more with Deirdre there, man.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Deirdre goes to Cortland's house, where Cortland's just like, it's so great to see that you're up and everything. I wish I could have helped you. I'm so sorry I haven't been here for you. I'll give you clothes, anything you need. I'll make sure you're fine.
Yeah, and he shows he's really regretful about like not doing anything in the past. He inquires about Lasher, and she lies and tells him that after all these years, she doesn't know if he's there or not.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to Rowan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we cut back to Rowan after she shows up at Cortland's house. Because I think the next time we see her, Cortland and her are just casually talking, and then stuff happens.
And then, so Rowan walks past her aunt, checks into her hotel, I guess maybe takes a nap or something, and then we cut to her at the bar.
As she's checking in, a tour guide walks past.
Okay, yes.
And she tries to ask the clerk at the hotel desk if he recognizes the house in the picture, and she's like, no. So
then she goes to the hotel bar where she runs into that same tour guide, and she asks the tour guide about the mansion, and the tour guide immediately recognizes it. She's like, oh, this is the old infamous Mayfair house.
Yeah, it got taken off the tour because they paid for it to be taken off, but like, there are so many great stories about it. Witches, ghosts, demons, vampires, everything.
But it's mostly known for its witches.
Yeah.
And Deirdre's like, witches? And
Rowan.
she's like, Rowan's like, witches? And the tour guide is like, oh, tourists, they'll believe anything. Like,
yeah. And then Rowan's like, well, will this help put it back on for a detour? And just like slides her money. And the tour guide is like, tour starts at 5.
And then we cut back to Deirdre, and she's put on the dress that Cortland's daughter used to wear, the old green dress.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to the one Rowan wore in her dream with Elle.
And Cortland's like, well, what are you going to do now? And Deirdre's like, I'm going to find my daughter. And he's like, dear, your daughter is dead. And she's like, no, she's alive.
So she grabs her necklace, speaks the word that Lasher reminded her that her mother taught her. Her head shoots back, her eyes turn like milky white, and a white-eyed Lasher appears in Rowan's hotel room.
Yeah, he's looking around and creeps on Rowan for a bit, but Deirdre like psychically like pulls him away from her
because Rowan's in the shower and Lasher's like reaching out to touch.
Yeah, and Deirdre psychically like yanks him away to continue looking around the room, and he spots, and because she's looking through his eyes, a key with the name of the hotel on it.
And she's like, she snaps out of the vision, and she looks at
Cortland,
and she's like, she's already in New Orleans. And he goes, I'll get my driver to take you there. So then we cut back to Rowan, and she's receiving a call from Cyprian. And he tells her that he works for the Telemasca.
Yeah.
And
that they need to meet up like right now.
That he was recruited by Ellie to protect Rowan. That they need to meet up. Rowan is like not... She doesn't really know what to believe about it, but like she agrees to like meet up with him.
Because he's like, look, I'll help you with your gifts and powers. I understand that it's crazy. There's a lot going on, but like if you just meet with me, we'll talk. I understand some of what's going on.
And she's like, well, how would that help? And he tells her
an anecdote that he was told
about 2 men lost in the woods looking for the way out, and how when they met up with each other, the one man offered to go with the other man, and the other man said, but how would that help me?
And then the first man says, well, I can tell you the ways that didn't work for me, and you can say the ways that didn't work for you, and together, perhaps we will find a way out.
Yes. So then we cut to the hotel like lobby area.
Yeah.
And Deirdre walks in, and Carlotta, who is at this like function for her church group, sees Deirdre.
It seems very church groupy. I don't know if it is, but that's what my brain immediately goes to.
She specifically mentions what the group is called, and like I don't remember what that group is called.
I think she said something like a guild meeting, which was weird.
Oh yeah, I don't remember. But I clocked it as like a religious, like the name was religious.
Yeah, I think it was like a something guild meeting, which, don't get me wrong, they are dressed like every like upper mid class, let's go Sunday church after time meeting bullshit, whatever.
But Carlotta sees Deirdre and is like instantly confused, but like confronts Deirdre and she's like,
we're gonna go home.
And Deirdre goes, no, I'm not.
And Carlotta's like, yes, you will.
And Deirdre doesn't say no again. She just goes, if I'm awake.
So is he.
And then just walks right past her aunt.
Into an elevator. And then we cut upstairs to where Rowan is leaving her room. She also pushes the button for the elevator.
And the door opens, and Deirdre and Rowan see each other for the first time since...
Ever?
Well, no, because Deirdre saw the baby. It's not the first...
Yeah. Deirdre smiles. Rowan's like, it's you. And then blood starts to pour from Deirdre's super slit throat.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
Rowan cradles her dying mother.
She screams in shock, holds her dying mother. End of episode.
Elevator doors close. Yeah, end of episode. Justice, what you think? How do you like The Dark Place?
Honestly, it has more going on than the first episode, but like not in a good way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't have a lot to say about the show because I just did not like it.
Honestly, you know what? I have a good thing to say about the show.
Okay.
I like Cyprian. I want more Cyprian and Talamasca stuff. I want the show to not be about the fledgling witch who is a doctor, witch who is a doctor, who is apparently the daughter of a demon, apparently, who also has a weird sexual connection with the demon that she is unaware of and is being forcibly exposed to through her mother.
Look, it's really weird.
I don't like it.
It's really weird that Anne Rice went super Christian with her works later on.
Yeah.
Because, like, her earlier stuff is super not.
Yeah, like, I got some problems with like, some of the things in here work, and,
Also, Telenoska's a fun word to say.
Yeah, I just want Cyprian and, like, the people who apparently, assumedly have, like, witch-based powers, but are also a part of an organization to keep witches safe and or control them.
They run the masquerade.
Yeah, like that sounds more fun. I just want more Cyprian and, assumedly, his witch hunter / witch protector guild thing.
God. Yeah, the Telenoska feels like fun.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the show does not feel like fun.
Yeah, no.
Also, it seems wild to me to build these two episodes up around Deirdre, like...
And then just immediately kill her, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's so wild.
And it's not even like it builds it up in a manner where, like, she might die, or, like, right before this big, very important thing. Like, all this does is let us know it's going to be a struggle for Rowan to get more information, really. Like, that's all it does.
It's so wild that, like...
The only other thing it does, I guess, is open up to allow the ants to try to control more about her life.
I like...
Deirdre can't speak out against it.
I do like the murder mystery aspect of it. Who killed Deirdre? He's like...
It's Flasher.
Flasher killed...
He wants to fuck his daughter, not his daughter's mom.
Oh, and that's why he also made Deirdre's mom kill herself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
He's trying to create a more powerful offspring amongst the Mayfair Witches for some odd reason.
Or he's trying to get a son or something.
I don't fucking know. Also, I don't know if I'm right, but honestly, that's like a plot in like several weird magical blood lineage demon things.
It's vaguely the plot of Sabrina.
Exactly. Like
of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Oh no, it's vaguely the plot of the comics of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Exactly. Like it's not a thing I haven't seen before with witches and demons. Like it's weird, and I don't know why it's a thing I've seen repeatedly in the genre.
Huh. Anyways, would you watch more of this show?
Honestly, I kind of want to just for more Cyprian stuff. I just want to know what the fuck's going on with the Talamasca stuff.
Oh.
That's like the only thing I care about, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch more of this show. In fact, these two episodes... I remember hearing that AMC acquired the rights to the Anne Rice novels and that they were making an interview with a vampire show.
Yeah, apparently that's good.
I remember hearing about that show.
Also, apparently it's very gay, which is accurate. That book is also very gay, even if it's never explicitly stated.
Yeah, Lestat and the vampire from Interview with a Vampire, very gay together. Mm-hmm. They even have a daughter together, technically, kind of. Very gay. Very, very gay. And this show, I forgot that show was a thing. I forgot that, like, I remember it was being made, I just didn't realize it came out.
Yeah. I'd never heard anything about this being made either.
I had never heard anything about Witches and Mayfair Witches.
I knew Anne Rice had more things that weren't vampire stuff, but more supernatural that tied into it, but I didn't know it was Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, but, like, what I'm getting around to is, Interview with a Vampire Season 1 came out in 2020. These two episodes have not only made me not care about this show, they've made me go, do I really want to get into Interview with a Vampire? Like,
I mean, if you really didn't like this, then I would assume not, because I know the books do cross over at a point.
I'm assuming that what AMC is trying to do with these shows is build like another Walking Dead type of phenomenon.
I mean, they're still doing The Walking Dead.
Yeah, like there's
The Walking Dead Dead City. I don't know what the fuck that is, but it's a thing.
It stars
Negan and Maggie.
Yeah, that's their names.
I don't fucking know.
Maggie kidnaps Negan and takes him to a city so that they can both die, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know.
It's crazy and it's dumb. AMC's just like, we were really successful once. We will not let this go.
We had shows that people cared about. Remember Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead? We do too.
That's why we're going to make Better Call Saul and all of the other Walking Deads.
Apparently Better Call Saul.
I mean, Better Call Saul is apparently really good. A lot of people
might be better than Breaking Bad from
that's what I've heard. But my point is, they're just going to keep milking those specific IPs until they run out.
Anyways, I think that's it for me. I don't have anything more to say about this show. I did not like it very much. It's kind of crushed all interest I had in
Yeah.
the interview with the vampire TV show.
My take is I'm not really a huge fan. I really only care about one part of it. I guess if you like, honestly, kind of stilted, slow witch
Meandering.
dramas, it's for you.
There is like a part of me that like really loves supernatural. Actually, I obviously really love supernatural TV shows.
Yeah.
I just don't care about this one.
I don't blame you, man.
But hey, if you want to contact us and let us know your opinions on this show, the books,
if you think
Anne
we
Rice,
were unfair or Mayfair on the show, you can do so by tweeting us at Copilots Review on Twitter.
Or emailing us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
Or you can find a link to both of those, as well as our YouTube, our Discord.
Hive.
Our Hive doesn't have a link there, but you can find us on Hive at Copilots Review as well.
YouTube,
and you,
Discord, Patreon. That's the ones.
Our Patreon. You can find all of that by going to
copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
Yeah. Anyways, though, thank you for flying with us, and please fly again soon.